Yes, I'm from the future, don't question it. We don't have a lot of time. Okay, no, not much has changed except for literally everything. Okay, we gotta get to this. We gotta get to this. I read 6 books in March, not the 6 that I told you guys I was gonna read, 2 of which I actually decided to read on a whim, and so begins the long con. I can't be bothered to adhere to some arbitrary reading list, guys. I let the books call out to me, and those are the voices to which I adhere. I think I'm gonna create a table of contents this time, just in case any of you guys are looking for my thoughts on one particular book. Here it is. Yeah, she's cute. She's cute, isn't she? She's cute. I should have timestamps in the description anyway, but I wanted to make it known. Let's go ahead and begin with End of the World House. I have my 1 sentence and 1 word, of course. If you're coming from TikTok, hello, mwah, I love you, what the fuck? Why are you all the way? Why'd you come home? Why'd you come home with me?
So my sentence for this one is that I've managed to find the least interesting time loop ever, which I thought was impossible.
And the word? Yeah, the word is a sound effect, as a matter of fact, and you guys better accept that into the vocabulary of the English. I don't know if you guys like to dog on books together, but if you do, you're so welcome to be here right now. Synopsis, Kate and Bertie, they're best friends. Like in their 30s or something like that, they go on one last hurrah girls trip to Paris, France together. Before Kate moves town, because she's gonna move somewhere down south in California. I think right now they both live in the Bay Area. That's a little bit too much information. I don't think you need to know all of that. They got invited by some kind of guy who has insider access into the Louvre, so they got in before anybody else get to go into the museum, so it's completely empty. And they're exploring, they can't find the guy that they're looking for, and unbeknownst to them, the day starts repeating themselves. Unbeknownst to them is the operative phrase here, unbeknownst. Anybody in the crowd tell me really quickly, what is the purpose of a time loop if the constituents don't know that they are going through it? Until like halfway in the book, it takes a turn into Bertie's relationship with her boyfriend. What? I thought that this was going to be a kind of dissection on the relationship between Bertie and Kate. Bertie's boyfriend seems to know something about the time loop, but he's not telling Bertie something. And Bertie keeps getting these feelings that, oh, there's this kind of hole in my life where Kate used to be, but she actually doesn't know what that is because she doesn't remember any of the time loop. She doesn't remember Kate's relationship. You know what would be so interesting? If these 2 girls had to actually go through every single day at the Louvre together again and again and again, while Kate is like, oh my god, I really don't want to be around this girl anymore. And we know that because Kate's trying to move to another town and Bertie's like, oh my god, but I miss you and everything like that. It would have been looking at their friendship under a microscope. That would have been delectable. But that's not what we got. Definitely gonna have to put a spoiler warning in there. I think I just started talking about the book without any care for you guys. If you wanted to read this, I don't recommend it. But I mean, if you want to. The mechanics of this time loop attempt novelty but deliver nothing. And I'm alright with fiction incorporating tiny little sci-fi elements here and there just a dash. That's actually some of my favorite genre. A dash of sci-fi, a dash of fantasy. But don't try to do that and then also simultaneously try to explain to me what is going on. Try to explain to me the mechanics of this time loop because it actually doesn't make any sense. Because it actually doesn't look like you gave any thought into it whatsoever, and you were like, the readers are probably going to be hungry for an explanation. No, I don't need one. You just cooked up one haphazardly. Too quickly. It's not even cooked. You served, but the food is raw. This poorly constructed science fiction doesn't even loop. It loops for the first half of the book, and then the second half of the book, the women don't even know what's going on. They're not even in the same room as each other. They're not even in the same city. Kate is actually still stuck in the Louvre or something like that, enjoying her time alone away from her friend. Which, by the way, what is even happening there? There is some kind of explanation for that. Oh, and that's a whole other thing. The author tries to do some kind of pandemic equivalent, but doesn't exactly explain what's going on in the world. The world is ending. End of the World House. I think the climate change is finally caught up to us in this book. There are a lot of wars. Issues with foreign affairs, I believe, and I think there was also some kind of pandemic at the same time, and Kate and Bertie were assigned to live with each other. Everybody was assigned to live with a partner, and Kate and Bertie were assigned to live with each other. So maybe that's the reason why Kate was sick of her. Maybe that's the reason why Kate is excited to, like, move out and everything. She's excited to, like, live in the Louvre all by herself. But all by herself, though, she's really enjoying her life in the Louvre, empty, with nobody there, and she can't leave. Huh? We barely get any of this information about Kate until the very end, by the way, because for the second half of the book, we're just following Bertie's normal life working as a freaking cartoonist for some mega corporation, which could have been a really interesting thing to look into, but instead we don't get any of that. What the author expects us to do is to just find the puzzle pieces and piece them together ourselves, which is totally fine, but the thing is the puzzle pieces are like all over the house. There's one in the bedroom, there's one in the kitchen, there's one outside. There's one in the backyard. There's actually one on the opposite side of the country. You do some of the work for me, please. That's what the author is supposed to do. Am I not right? Birdie working as a cartoonist for a mega corporation could have been interesting to see how certain artists go two different paths. Some of them go down the route where they can just keep making money to affordably live. And they're making art that doesn't really represent them, but is able to support them. And then there are the artists that are actually doing crazy things, you know, like we're in the Louvre, man. We could have had a lot more stuff to talk about art, but yet we don't. It's so vapid and empty. Dude, it's empty. You would think that there would be so much stuff to look into with this great premise. It's a great premise, great characters, interesting dynamics, but nothing. It's like the author found the scraps of this book and just put them together like that, without doing any extra work to make them connect. The latter half of the novel explores Birdie's Kate-shaped hole, poignant yet unfulfilling, as you spend the entire 300 pages assuming the reason they're separated is the fault of Birdie's manipulative boyfriend, because her boyfriend becomes such a big character in this story. Like, literally, what? Not because you're stupid, but because the author repeatedly writes hints that this is the truth. Like I said, the puzzle pieces, but you don't know which one is a red herring and which one is an actual true hint, so it's actually very annoying to me, okay? Once you reach the end and you realize Kate has been hiding from Birdie, not because of any manipulative boyfriend that Birdie is held back by, but simply because she wanted to be alone, you're confused as to why you spent so much time thinking the former. This ended as a sort of love story between Birdie and her boyfriend. This starts examining the friendship between Kate and Birdie and then ends as a love story. It just puts a bad taste in my mouth, and I'm gonna move on from that book and we're gonna talk about the next one. Okay. Paradise Logic sentence. Woman on a quest to become the world's greatest girlfriend discovers that that task may be impossible, and the word is quirky. This bitch is so fucking quirky. I was sent this arc by Simon & Schuster. Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Schuster. I posted a review about it. Just so excited on TikTok. Simon & Schuster reached out to me. They said, we want to turn that TikTok into an ad. That's how much these bitches love my thoughts about this book. They thought it was marketable. And I realized that I should have charged more also. That's something that I learned, but it's whatever. Hey, it's whatever. The TikTok that I posted about this honestly got all of my feelings together. I might be reiterating some of those things, so sorry to disappoint if you've already seen that before, but it's totally fine, dude. I was marking up this book like crazy. This is my TikTok. Okay, I don't know if you can read any of that. Please don't pause and read it. You're being weird, okay? And you're violating my privacy. Me, even though I actively showed it to you. I was underlining quotes left and right. I was up in the margins writing this, and that. I was like, oh my god, this is so amazing. Just look at the way the book starts. We begin with the craziest prologue in the entire world, setting the tone for the rest of the book. Sophie Kemp, this author, I cannot sing your praises enough. You're insane, you're unique, you're you. You're one of one, baby. This woman loves her exclamation points, she loves her heart emoticons, she loves her religious imagery, she loves to make up words. She loves to make them sound a little bit silly. Like, instead of saying born, she says bornth. With a little TH at the end, just to be a little bit silly with it. Why do you do that to me? I love you. I love you, Sophie Kemp. The main character's name is also Reality. Isn't that so freaking funny? And the way that it comes out in like little ways here and there, it's like, wait, what? Wait, who? Wait, huh? Are we talking about reality or are we talking about reality? Obviously, we're talking about reality capital R because it's always capitalized. You should have been able to clock that, but I feel like it also means a little bit more, you know? There was an intermission in the form of a screenplay. I love when authors play with the structure of the book. It's so fun because it doesn't all just have to be words, paragraphs, blah, blah, blah. Of course, there's a lot of value to that, but it's so fun when I see you experimenting with the structure, with what can actually go on a page. A book can be so many different things, and Sophie Kemp loves to play with that. She has little pictures in here. Let's look at that. I'm gonna cover the boobs. What in the F? Right? What in the F? I know. I wrote my entire TikTok script out here. I try to be selective of the books that I receive from these companies, and when I saw this in my inbox, it was over. Just look at that cover. What even? This is the most alluring cover I've ever seen in my entire life and perfectly captures the essence of this absurd, crazy story. It mimics how every character in here is a cartoonish caricature destined to fulfill the role of evil boyfriend and naive girlfriend. Like, the whole idea that they're in the Garden of Eden, look at this freaking snake, why does it look like that? Why is the author's name in Comic Sans? Powerful. That's powerful. And when I say our main character Reality is on a quest to become the greatest girlfriend ever, I freaking mean it. Kemp's writing reminds me of a modernized Carrington if she was out here living her life during the year of 2025, in the way that its absurdity takes itself very seriously. The tone in this book is kind of like an AI that has only been trained on Pornhub homepage and 1950s issues of Cosmo. You'll see what I mean if you read the book. It is nearly robotic in the way that it attempts to mimic human conversation. It's like a simulacrum. or like a person who's on the spectrum who has studied humanity a little bit too much that it becomes a little bit obvious. Like, why are you making so much eye contact? You know, that type of thing. I don't want anybody to overthink their eye contact now. What you're making is a totally fine amount, trust me. And main character is like this because there's so many terrible things that have happened to her as a person. She has kind of evolved to become like this, and she decides to add one more terrible thing to the archive by trying to make this man fall in love with her, and he really does not want to fall in love with her. It's a futile journey. It's pathetic. She takes pills to try to become a good girlfriend. Like I said, the story is very absurd. They have good girlfriend pills. I do feel like this is a book that has always existed and has just waited for the right time to come out, and it's now, babe. I feel like this is a modern classic. Nobody is doing it like this. The singularity of this book, like I said, reminds you of the singularity of the self. Like, it brings it back around the message to remind you that you are the only person that matters in your life. Captures the insanity of modern dating. I mean, I've never been through it, but props to you girls who are suffering out there. Sorry about it. If you're one of those girls, this may be for you. I feel like you're gonna gain something beautiful out of it, okay? Down below, in a sentence, this honest diary recounts the artist Leonora Carrington's descent into madness and her later institutionalization. The word that I would use for it is harrowing. I feel like that fits. When her husband, Max Ernst, if any of you guys know him, he's another surrealist artist, was sent away to a concentration camp, Carrington fell into this deep sadness. She copes by purging her food and dancing in public. She thinks she's making herself the purest person by doing these types of things, and eventually her behavior just becomes so unhinged that she ends up, you know, getting put in an asylum. This is the second Leonora Carrington book that I read, the first one being The Hearing Trumpet. I try to mark up all her books because I feel like I gain a better understanding of her when I'm also like talking back with the book. I have a video in the making on how I take notes on books. I already filmed it. I'm just like waiting on the right time to edit it and release it because I have some other stuff that's also in the process of coming out. Oh, get excited! Who's excited? Sorry. This is definitely a lot different than the other things I've read by her, because those were only fiction, babe. This is non-fiction. She still has that whimsical energy in her, and I feel like part of that is because she was a little bit schizophrenic. She didn't get an official diagnosis, guys, but I don't know what else it could have been. From the way she's describing the things that went on with her, and her mental state, it sounds like schizophrenia, man. I have some examples of why I think this. So when she's in the asylum, Carrington assigns country names to each pavilion, like each little area in the asylum. Egypt, Jerusalem, China. She interprets her cosmetic supplies as abstract symbols that will help her bring about the world's new order. She is so convinced that she is going to save the world in this, and she's fighting against evil. And it's really hard to reconcile with because some of the evil that she thinks is coming to attack her are the doctors and the nurses who are using these unethical mental practices on her. So yeah, she is kind of going through it with them. At the same time, they are trying to help her, and we don't know how honest her entire recounting of this experience is because her memory was not the best. That was something that she wrote down. Her memory was not the best. She sometimes didn't remember when she did act out. It's dark, and it took me a little while to get through it, longer than I thought, because this is very short. And half of this is a foreword, but I had to take it in little pieces just because I didn't want to do too much. Poor girl. In a sense, we have an unreliable narrator, but Carrington takes heed to tell the story as objectively as she can by detailing the stuff that was going on in her mind at the time, if that makes sense. And she even said that it was hard for her to revisit that because she was writing this in the future, reflecting back on that moment. I feel like I know so much about this woman now, and I'm like, wow, I'm really attached to you. And I'm sorry you went through that. I'm gonna start crying. This was great to learn more about her, but I do want to return to the shore of the mystical land of fiction rather than staying in the nauseating sea of madness. Because this was madness. We're gonna go ahead and do something a little bit brighter. That's also Carrington. This one's really sweet. The Milk of Dreams. Okay, sentence for this one. An editor packaged all of Leonora Carrington's drawings and stories that she did for her children, and it's right over here. It's really sweet, guys. Super short. You could read this in like 10 minutes max. And of course the word is playful. This is my third Carrington now after reading The Hearing Trumpet and Down Below, which we just talked about. This is really silly. I feel like Carrington has this blunt prose, which is juxtaposed by the absurdity of her storylines, that it lends itself really well to a children's book. I don't know if I would know though, because I was looking through the Goodreads reviews and somebody was talking about how they read this to their child and their child had nightmares. So maybe I'm wrong about that. The shortest of fables find refuge in this dainty collection, intermingled with doodles that Carrington drew herself. Look at this shit. Are we seeing it? Okay, that's just the beginning, bro. You don't even know. One of these stories completely divulges into insanity. Carrington loves going absurd and crazy with it, especially when nothing connects to each other. So let me show you. This is the monster of Chihuahua. Starts off very normally, blah blah blah, whatever. And then we just get crazy. You seen that? Oh. Oh. Guys, so maybe that was not a part of the original Monster of Chihuahua story? The Monster of Chihuahua story was only one page. She does have some stories that are one page. That's totally viable. You saw her drawings just now. They're silly, right? But they do harbor a little bit of menace. Some kind of foreboding nature about them that scares me a little bit, but I like it. I think it makes sense why that one child on Goodreads got nightmares after reading this. It's a little bit scary. We learn of John, who has wings for ears, or Lolita, who beheads children. That's really fun. Carrington is like intermingling these kind of cautionary tales with delectable whimsy. It's just a buttload of silly. Yeah, some stories definitely make more sense than others, but it's fun to try to decode what each of them mean. If they even mean anything, because maybe Carrington was just writing to write and nothing means anything. It's fun to lose yourself in her world, though I don't know if I like walking without a handrail for steadiness. You know what I'm saying? And I really didn't know what to rate this, so I just went right in the middle with 3 stars. I feel like that's okay, right? Like, I mean, what can I say? I giggled. I cowered. I feel like I'll definitely refer to this in the future, so I'm glad that I bought it. I'm buying all of her books, by the way. I'm creating a collection. But I did just get my edition of the completed stories by her, which are marketed towards adults, and that's what I'm a little bit more excited to read, because these were just too bite-sized to satiate. So that's that. What did I post on my Instagram story? I thought it was funny. Finally finished, and my jaw is still sore from that nasty punch in the face. Except it hurts a million times more because it was all in slow-mo. I've lived so many lives, and now I'm just meant to move on? Still lying on the pavement. What do you mean, get up? Help me. That's how I felt after this, and to be honest, I had a crazy rebound. I think that is how dead I would feel like if I broke up with my boyfriend right now, and I don't plan that to fucking happen, okay, by the way? I love him so much, and if we broke up, I think my heart would feel like it was ripped out of my freaking chest, and that's what it felt like reading this book. That's what it felt like finishing this book, not reading this book. Reading this book, it was a jolly old grand time. Now that I finished it, I'm so dead. I'm so dead. David Mitchell, you don't know what the F you do to me. Okay, let's go ahead and get the sentence in the word because I don't think I said that yet. Sentence: one woman's role in the war on time is painted through 5 different characters' perspectives. Love that about it. Word: mortality. Let's talk about the 5 different characters' perspectives. I was taking notes on this shit, okay? This is a little bit of a blend between fantasy and lit fic, I would say, because it does get pretty literary, but it's big on fantasy too, okay? Sometimes the author will just go off on rants about this, that, okay? Through the character, which he is portraying, of course, which he has such a crazy talent for. This man makes the voice of all of his different characters so distinct. I'm like, how the F do you do that? Okay, and I've read multiple books by him. I know that he has this talent. It's not just in here. This is what he does. This is what I love. All parts of this book, I wrote it down right here in this little part, alright? It starts in 1984 from Holly's perspective. She's the main character that everybody is going to be like distantly connected to. All of the other characters who have their own perspectives in their parts, they're going to be distantly connected to her and somehow telling another part of her story. We follow Holly as a teenager, then a trust-funded college boy, a war-obsessed journalist, a critically acclaimed author, a real-life atemporal, all to loop back around to Holly in grandmother age. It tells the story of her life. And I realized in my review I didn't even mention how it started, but Holly's basically trying to run away from her family with her older boyfriend, which she shortly and quickly finds out is cheating on her with her best friend. A little bit awkward because they're also both 15 and he's like, what, 25? Caught 2 cases there, isn't that crazy? At the same damn time! The little 15-year-old Holly still doesn't want to go back to home because she's making a point to her family, okay? If she can't stay with her boyfriend that she just broke up with because she just found him cheating on her, then she's gonna go out into the world. And that's when she encounters some weird things, okay? Her little brother also goes missing. And she also has this weird vision that she gets. Here's the special thing about Holly, is that ever since she was a little girl, she was hearing these voices. These voices from people who she called the radio people because she thought it was just like a radio playing in the other room, but no, it was actually just voices that she was hearing. These voices are a part of a group called the Atemporals, a group of select humans who both reincarnate and bend space-time at will, find their place in nearly every story I've read by David Mitchell, okay? So it's really nice to finally go back to where it all began, go back to the book. I love how this guy is freaking multiversal and little characters come in from other books and I'm like, oh hey, what the fuck are you doing here? I know you, it's so fun, I love it. I honestly kind of feel inadequate when I talk about this book because it feels like an epic and I can't even believe it passed through me this month. I do want to note that I think the atemporals part in this book was the weakest. It yearns for the same natural flow that is present in every single other thing, but the thing is, it was semi-obvious that Mitchell didn't know how to incorporate the intriguing parts of this atemporal's life because it's a fantastical person's life. Like, you want to include those parts in it, but it's kind of hard to get that flow going while you're also trying to tell a story. And when it comes to the fantasy itself, I call it shy. Okay, yeah, especially in the beginning, the way it weaves in and out, it comes back in important ways, but it always allows the chosen character to speak whatever they want to talk about. When it comes to the second character, Hugo, that was sickening. Oh my god. He's a little cheaty boy, okay? And I mean that in every sense of the word. He's cheating in, like, relationship ways. He's also cheating in financial ways. He's cheating in school ways. If he wants to talk, then you have to freaking listen. And I almost put down the book after that character because he was so insufferable, but I'm glad I kept going because my favorite character was the fourth one. The author, I loved him. And all of them, like I said, have different contact points with Holly, the main character, and it's just really cool to see it all connect. Mitchell does not care if you're not getting enough fantasy at that certain moment. If he wants to talk about what the author's going through, if he wants to talk about the author's takes on writing and young writers these days, then he's going to go ahead and talk about that stuff. If you're a fan of fantasy, you may be a little bit annoyed, because this is definitely like very urban fantasy, emphasis on the urban. It eventually does pick itself back up in the fifth part where we have that fantastical character telling the story, but of course, and a bit more on the exposition, there comes a huge jump at around page 450. I am of the belief that if you have to say to the audience in some way, like, oh, the history lesson's almost over, or if you're saying that to a character or something like that, then you haven't done a good job. Then you could have done it a little bit better. You could have revealed those pieces of information in a way that was more conducive to the flow of the story. So that's another reason why it's not a full 5-star. And I just must say, this is a story about life. This is a story about mortality. Mitchell himself stated that he wrote the Bone Clocks in an attempt to explore his own feelings of mortality. Obviously that much is evident. It's an ontological piece. It's a fully played out life board game. So much has happened, that's why I felt like my heart had been turned inside out and upside down and then stolen from me. I started to feel like an atemporal myself since I had watched so many lives pan out in front of me. And I'm gonna leave us off with some final ideas that just sprouted out throughout the book. I just don't know what to do with them. There are so many things that I just feel like I have to list them, so I'm gonna list them here. Golden apples as a symbol. Effective storytelling. A lot of thoughts on that. Lying cheaters. Foreign policy, chance encounters, psychic premonitions, marriage problems, parental relationships, reincarnation, the flimsiness of gender. I could list more and more if they come to mind. And they all could be examined in such depth. Someone's gonna write a thesis on this book, guys. I'm telling you. Last, but most certainly not least, matter of fact, it might be the most. On the Calculation of Volume by Solvej Balle. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I looked up how to pronounce both of them. Solvej Balle. She's a Danish author. This was originally translated from Danish, and now it's currently being translated into English. Only 2 books so far have been translated into English, so we're waiting for all of them to come out because this is a septology, baby. One sentence for this book. I'm elated that this delectable time loop is only part 1 in a septology. That's so crazy the way I already said that, and the word is prose. Babe, the prose in this is so crazy. I was at Shelves in the City this weekend. So grateful for amazing time just meeting so many different people. I'm gonna talk about that later in my next video that comes up. But I was spreading the gospel of this book this entire weekend. Like I said, what is the gospel without the disciples, and what is On the Calculation of Volume without me? I was recommended this by one of my newer mutuals, Joe Reeds. Thank you, Joe. This was phenomenal. This story introduces our main character, Tara, on her 122nd November 18th. Girl, she's in a time loop. I haven't written a full review on this, so all my thoughts are just scattered everywhere. I have to try to combine them right now. I'm sorry if I don't do a great job. But Tara is a bookseller. She works at some kind of like antique bookselling company with her partner. She's the one that goes out and sources the books, and he's the one that takes care of all the accounting, finances, and stuff like that. So that's how they work together. And on the day before November 18th, so on November 17th, she was out in Paris and she was buying some antique books, basically a work trip. She went to her hotel room that night and she woke up. Okay, I think I said that wrong. That day wasn't November 17th, it was November 18th, I'm sorry, I totally forgot. But yeah, she wakes up the next day, which is also still November 18th, going about it thinking that it's going to be November 19th, but the thing is, it's not. The first thing that she notices is like this guy drops a piece of bread in the exact same way that he did yesterday, which is actually today. The thing about this time loop, the mechanics in it, is that she is allowed to traverse wherever she wants, and the things that she has an effect on stays, if that makes sense. She went back home, and she still stayed there the next day, even though the next day was November 18th. So she stays, things that she moves around stays, except for some little things. I don't think the point of this story is for it to have actual, like, well thought out sci-fi time loop mechanics, the way that End of the World House tried to be. This is definitely the type of book that is a little bit more symbolic than otherwise, and the prose is just delicious. Like I said, that was the word for this book. It's so yummy. I can't get over it. The way she describes love with her partner, insane. The way she describes going through this time loop, you would be so convinced that this author herself has experienced it, because how can you be that observant? It captures everything. The little bits of hope, the sadness, the madness. The entire emotional journey is fully reflected throughout this entire thing, and I'm just in such awe at how somebody would be able to write a fictional experience as though they had lived through it. And the way it starts off, it's so cool. The way it starts off, she says, there is someone in this house. I can hear him moving about, and it's her husband. And that brings up a lot of questions in your mind. You're like, why isn't she with her husband right now? And the thing is, she did go back to her husband. She tried to work this out with him so many times over and over again, but then she realized that as the days got longer, oh my god, there was something that she said in here and it was just fantabulous. As she kept waking up to a day which is long since begun, that's exactly what she said. You're gonna kill me right now. So as she kept waking up to a day that has long since begun, she noted that like the distance between her and her boyfriend or her husband, I don't know what the official label was, kept growing farther and farther apart, and she eventually just stopped hanging out with him, stopped trying to figure out a solution with him because, quote, why would I toss 151 days onto the floor in a heap when I can have this very short distance just staying in the guest room and listening to all of his sounds? She describes it as a kind of dance that they're doing. And then she gets upset that it's just this dance. She's like, this is not a dance, I'm a monster and he's a ghost and blah blah blah. It's so beautiful. I think I'm going to scream and shout and let it all out. I think I'm gonna do all of those things. I really cannot get over this. There are such big themes on her taking up more space than is allotted for her to fill. And look at that. I feel like that's demonstrated really nicely on the cover over here because you have the little circle or oval or whatever that has the title, and then in it is this aura that just cannot be contained. She's like growing outside of it. This is just so delectable, so existential, and I do feel like it represents what it's like to be internally suffering in a relationship where your partner wants to help you, but they cannot help you. It's this crazy big existential sadness that is written so, so beautifully. I read this one quote from here on TikTok about love. If you want to go check that out to get a sense of what the prose is like, then go ahead. I cannot emphasize how well written this is. I know that there's got to be a lot of work going on the translation side of it all by Barbara Havland. Thank you, Barbara. They've got to be working together in close cahoots to get this communicated as beautifully as possible because it is insane. I wonder what it's like reading this in the original Danish. If there's some little tidbits or stuff that have been lost across the translation. I feel like I'm gonna cry right now. I'm so sorry. All of the books this month, except for End of the World House, have been phenomenal. I feel like I've been gifted a crazy, incredible experience this month to just have so many astounding books cross my path. Yeah, before I start crying, I think I should go. Thank you guys so much for watching, you know, give it a like, give it a comment. What did you read this month? Did you read any of the books that are the same as me? Let me know. I have a vlog coming up for the Shelves in the City weekend that should be up Saturday. I feel really inspired after this weekend, so I'm so excited to get that out. I'm excited to share all of that with you. Thanks for just watching the stuff that I post. I just like talking about this stuff, so I'm glad that you guys are here to watch. I'm gonna start crying. I'm really grateful right now. Super gratitude. Oh my god, okay. Okay, love you. Bye. I read 6 books in March, not the 6 that I told you guys I was gonna read, 2 of which I actually decided to read on a whim, and so begins the long con.